So even on a miss, it still hits. Should be a quote. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Screen Tested. I am your host Tyrant, where we take things from movies, TV shows, pop culture, try to create them in the real world and test them one to one from the media that they come from. Now in today's episode we're going to be looking at a vampire slaying weapon from the Castlevania series, and that is the throwing cross. They also had one, I'm pretty sure, in the Vampire Survivors game. I really like that game, it's such a good game. I should play that game. Anyway, another vampire slaying weapon. I'm a big fan of like vampire and the dark fantasy genre. I like the weapons and stuff, so for me, I don't mind. This is another throwing weapon, whatever. It's basically a cross. It's essentially a cross that's made out of some sort of metal that has some sharpened points, and you throw it. Pretty straightforward, both in terms of the build and the testing. So with all that out of the way, let's get started. So here we have our Castlevania cross, our throwing cross. What do I think of it? Well, first off, I mean, for a vampire slaying weapon, I mean, the power of Christ compels you. The power of Christ compels you. I mean, yeah. I mean, you've turned an actual item that you would carry into a weapon. But how good is it at being thrown? Well, this is a simple question with a simple answer. Let's throw it. Shouldn't be too difficult. I'm going to be throwing it right here, so let's try some different spaces, see how effective it is. This is a rather close range throw. Let's see if it... Yep, that was the first throw, and that was not f***ing around. I mean, they're really... I feel like today's episode is kind of self-explanatory. I feel like from this point on, you're just going to be watching me throw shit. Yeah. That flies beautifully. That was gorgeous. Holy fuck. I like that. Okay, that one hit the branch. That actually didn't hit the trunk bit. I have no idea how well you guys are going to be able to see this flying through the air because it's you know, it's blackened metal, but hopefully you can see something. Fuck, that one's in there. Cool. Perfect. That was a perfect one. That was cool. Check it out. The cross is still embedded. All right, let's try it as a, actually, no, wait, hold on. I'm gonna throw it at Tony. I think that went around him. I'll check. That spun around him. No good. Here, Tony, catch. So if we don't succeed at first, we try again. I think my approach will be to throw it harder this time. I'll throw it harder. That was pretty f***ing hard. And it still didn't go in. So far, Blade's glaive and the Krull glaive both were able to penetrate Tony. So far, the throwing crucifix has not been able to penetrate him. However, I feel as though this one has performed better overall. If you're enjoying today's episode, you should consider subscribing. I'd really appreciate it. Sorry, Tony, I didn't mean that one, buddy. I am going to attempt to throw this up and fucking nail it. This is stupid. I should do some melee, but I want to. Oh, shit. Yeah. Can you see this? We went past this camera, past this tree, but nailed this one. So even on a miss, it still hits. Should be a quote. That wasn't as climactic as I thought it would be. I thought it would be a bit cooler. Let's get to our final thoughts. I don't think there's too much left to cover with the throwing cross. So let's get to Tyrant's initial thoughts score, or TITS for short. In terms of this one, I actually think that it's not bad. And the reason why is because not only is it a throwing weapon, I think we've demonstrated pretty reasonably that it is actually not a bad throwing weapon at all. But it's also still a functional item. First off, if this is for vampire hunting, right? It is still a cross. The power of Christ compels you, Tony. Ah, got him. So it still is a functional cross. On top of that, I do think that it has some melee capabilities. For example, if I was to come down like this, I don't think you're going to be generating too much force in that sort of way. However, using these parts of the cross as a guard, I should say, you can generate some force and use it like a little shiv. You don't have too much length, but it's still perfectly reasonable to do that, and that doesn't feel too terrible at the end of the day. So let's start off with one of the categories. First off, comfort. It's a bit nebulous because what's the comfort I'm assessing here? It's a throwing weapon. You hold it and you throw it. For that, it's perfectly comfortable. 9 out of 10, no worries. I mean, it's a little thin. It could be a little bit more contoured, things like that, but there's not really much to grade here. In terms of using it as a melee weapon, I mean, it's, again, you would want a little bit more thickness, a little bit more bulk, but that might screw with the aerodynamics. So for comfort, let's go 9. I got no problems with it at all. In terms of its wieldability, like 10 out of 10. There's nothing wrong with the wieldability. This is what I like about it. It is a very low user error weapon, meaning any random person could pick this up and just throw it. So let me grab that back. Any person could just pick it up and throw it and it will probably work. Next up is the design. I mean, 9 out of 10. You have a little bit extra length for the throw when it comes to this. As a throwing weapon, I actually don't mind the design at all, and the sticking in rate, the hit rate was pretty good. So having this little bit of extra length for a handle seems to actually really help. Having 3 almost equal, we'll call them that, points seems to really help as well. So the design is actually pretty good. The wieldability is pretty good. Let's get into the last and final category, and that is effectiveness. Like, this is not a main weapon. Obviously, I shouldn't have to say that, but I'm gonna say it anyway, just in case. So this isn't like what you would carry around primarily. It was pretty good, man. For effectiveness, as a throwing weapon, 10 out of 10. I feel like I'm having an existential crisis here because I haven't seen the scores yet. I don't know what the score is yet, but I've got a feeling that this may be genuinely one of the highest things I've ever rated. And it's a fucking throwing weapon. But it's really good at it. Not only is it really good at it, it's pretty good at also doing other things. Turns out this is a great design. What the fuck? That gives us a final score I don't want to say it out loud. I don't want to say it out loud. I don't want to say it out loud. It gives us a score 38. That gives us a final score of 38 out of 40 for a throwing weapon. Almost a perfect score. What the fuck? I am unhappy with this. I am unhappy with this result. But I think it's a fair one. So I think the reason why I like this one so much, I actually think it is probably the best throwing weapon we've done so far. And the reason why is with something like the Krellglaive, yes, it stuck into things. Yes, it was incredibly sharp and pointy, but it was also quite dangerous to the user. Actually using that thing, getting it out of targets was kind of difficult. It brought it down a little bit. On top of that, it required a lot of blades. There was a lot of blades required for that. When it came to, Blades Throwing Glaive, that was also pretty good. The problem with it was there are some areas where it doesn't have points, so it sometimes would bounce or would miss. On top of that, it had the issue of having two blades going the wrong way. So when you used it as a melee weapon, one of them was by necessity kind of always coming towards you. With the throwing cross, it can be used in close quarters. It has a guard of sorts. On top of that, when you throw it, because it has that extra long bit, which is just a feature of a cross, right? It means you kind of have a handle. And from what I've seen in today's testing, that doesn't detrimentally affect its effectiveness when it actually hits a target, because it still can get lodged in. It's pretty good shit. But that's going to be all for today's episode, guys. I genuinely hope you enjoyed. Remember to like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below of what you thought of today's weapon. Throwing weapon. It's a throwing cross, throwing weapon thing. Anyway, if you want to support this channel, become a member down below. There'll be some links. I create exclusive content for the people that help support the channel. I would really appreciate it, and it helps me make this sort of content. But that is all for today's episode. Thank you for watching, and as always, I will see you next week with another episode. 38! What the f***?